Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Hello, everyone. Today we have more on the Masterson trial. And well, it's not as much as I anticipated because on Wednesday, as you know, the court took a break. But there's been a lot. There actually, in the day and a half that I have of reporting, there is so much that going to be a little more fast paced during today. But please, as you have questions or comments, go ahead and put them into the chat, and I'll try to take care of them as we go rather than wait till the end. Basically, where we left off was a lot of testimony from Jane Doe 3. You're aware that there were many incidences with Jane Doe 3 because her testimony is she is the one that she had the long-term relationship with Danny Masterson, 6 years. When we last spoke, we talked about how the defense kept trying to go back into that relationship longer. However, the Judge Almeida, had already admonished the prosecutor, D.A. Mueller, that, hey, we're not going to go over the whole 6-year history of everything that's going on. We're just going to talk about what's pertinent to the actual incidences that are being charged, the relationship of the delay. In regards to Scientology, they are only allowed to talk about limited amounts in regards to the harassment that occurred with all three of the accusers that prevented them from coming forward to testify, to actually put in a filed report against Danny Masterson for the sexual assault. They're allowed to speak about their relationship with Scientology and how they felt, what their presence of mind was, how they were looking at the situation at the time, since all three were Scientologists at the time of the incidences. Okay. And they are only allowed to speak in that way. They're not allowed to speak generally about Scientology because let's be clear, this case does involve Scientology, but they are not the accused. Okay. They are not being accused only of in why the case took so long to come forward, why the accusers took so long, the victims actually took so long to do their reports and for a case to be brought forward. There is a separate civil suit, and it does come up in the trial. It is coming up here and there that there is one, but it's also every time noted. Remember that Danny Masterson is not named in that civil suit. Okay, and he's not being accused here of harassing his accusers. There is no charges being brought for harassment by Danny Masterson. That's not something that's going on. He's clearly only being charged for the sexual assaults. Okay. Testimony over the course of yesterday. Yeah. I'm laughing because I'm reading my friend Bearded Heretic's questions. Okay, let me rephrase that. If you have a question, a pertinent question to the Danny Masterson trial and Scientology in that context, I'll put it up and answer it. Otherwise, you're just going to get a giggle out of me in a behave, Luke. Behave. Okay, right there. I had to say it on YouTube. But actually I will plug his channel because I love his psyched streams over there on Answers and Reason. And I love those guys. Everybody knows it. And YouTube knows it. Twitter knows it. Everybody in my chat knows it. And I'm just going to say it again. So now stop plugging, behave, and ask me pertinent questions. Damn it. Control me all track. But at least it was in the beginning. Okay. Remember, I'm going to come to your chat and throw you off too. Like, just remember. Okay. Just remember. Okay. So anyway. And Jack's nice to see you very much. Jack is from Foul Play, and so is Alice, and a few others that come to the chat. Excellent channel for the wrongful convicted. They do extremely detailed work. They are on it. They are one of the most concise channels I've seen as far as the detail of the information they provide, how they go over it. I started watching them when I was covering Depp versus Heard, and I met Alice and Rhonda in the chat, and I was very interested in Stephen Avery, and I had been looking into that, and I'll tell you, they're doing a bang up job. So check them out also. All right, so plugs done. Hey, hi, Mrs. Cassandra, how you doing? Hi, everybody else in the chat that I didn't get to say hi to personally, but thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I know, Mrs. Cassandra, maybe if possible, maybe Autistic Shill or Mrs. Cassandra or any of the mods could drop both of those channels. Also, they are both prominently displayed on my actual channel, on my channel links. You'll find Bearded Heretic's personal channel and Answers and Reason there. He does his psyched show on Answers and Reasons, and you will find a link for Foul Play in many of my others, but definitely before the end of the day, I'll drop them for you. If the mods can't. Okay, so you guys are welcome. You know, I always appreciate your support, and I'm happy to promote the content that I like to watch also. So there you go. All right, so back to the trial, if we may. Okay, Jane Doe 3, okay, is definitely having a hard time on the witness stand. Not a hard time in how she's sticking to her story or presenting herself, but it's very emotional. It's traumatic for her. And I have to say that I am distressed is the only word that I could use. I've been thinking about what word to use for how I feel about how the defense is going at Jane Doe 3. And well, I had quite a few of them. But basically, distressed is the most appropriate one to use right now out here in public on YouTube. Because, I mean, when you have to be admonished by the judge several times for prurient content, for prurient questions, for like going just a little too far on things, for actually doing what he's accusing the prosecution of doing. He watches the prosecution be told to stay within a lane, and then Cohen from the defense and or Goldstein will go right over that line and just do whatever. Okay. And guaranteed every time, turn around and ask for a mistrial because of something somebody said, like a word. And I'll get to that later because this one's going to crack you up. Well, Jane Doe 3 has very much stuck to her story. The more they try to rattle her, she is calm as best as she can be, and she tries to carefully answer everything. She tells you clearly when she doesn't remember anything, or if there's a report from years ago in this about the wording. And here it is, it's about the wording. The defense is repeatedly attacking witnesses in regards to the report, the first reports that were put in. Okay, especially Jane Doe 1. I mean, we'll get back to later, but on Jane Doe 3, she's going back and forth about what did you say to the investigator and how did you word this and how did you word that. And to make my point, I'll tell you about one instance that's been reported. There is an instance where, if you recall, the other day we reported that Jane Doe testified about an incident where she refused. She said she didn't want to have sex with Danny. Danny wanted to have sex. Okay. She didn't want to have sex. Danny became upset about it. She said something nasty to him, like, well, what do I, some comment. She says some really rude, nasty comment so he would leave me alone. Danny then pulled her by her hair and tossed her outside. But she says she was hit. Okay, this is one of the only incidences where Danny hit her, and it was because of what she said to him. And she admitted in open court what she actually said to him was like, I slept with your brother, or something really cruel like that to his face. And apparently he hit her. And then she's trying to describe how he hit her because he did not punch her. And yet she's saying it wasn't open-handed. It was kind of like, close-handed and just a whack. But it was more, instead of the fist, it was the bottom palm of his hand that hit her in the face. Okay. So she doesn't know what to call it. And she's not referring to it as a slap or a punch. But apparently, during the conversation with Detective Reyes, Detective Reyes says, so it was, and I quote, so it wasn't a punch, it was more like a slap. And Jane Doe 3 says, yeah. But however, in court, Cohen tries to infer that Jane Doe 3 is the one who called it a slap. And he goes on for a few minutes about this until finally they bring the report up. Finally, when Cross, DA Mueller brings up the report and they see right clearly and they read it. Who said what, you know? And even in Cross, when Cohen tried to get her to read it, she says, I don't believe I said it. It says right here, I said, yeah. I didn't say it was a slap. But this is the twisting that's going on. Now, I realize in a court of law that the defense has to do the best that they can for their client. And I'd say that Cohen feels he's doing the best that he can. Well, there's also quite a few laws in California about how you're to treat sexual assault victims during testimony. And to say that Cohen comes really close to the line repeatedly, puts his foot over it, wiggles it there in the water, and then just tries to see if anybody's looking. Yeah, I'd say that's going on. I'd say it's pretty nasty. It's I have to give Jane Doe 3 a lot of credit. Several times, she became a little emotional. She actually did have a panic attack. She also reported that they're holding her to her words in her interview with Detective Reyes, like so closely Cohen is. And yet it comes out in Cross with DA Mueller that during that conversation, she had a panic attack then too. Okay. It was very emotional. The fact that she can remember most of it and that she's trying very hard not to have words misinterpreted, trying not to say she definitely said this and she definitely said that. Actually, that is, to me, portraying her honesty, her credibility. And I'm hoping the jury sees it too. I really am, because what I'm seeing is someone who's doing their best not to discredit anybody or put words in anybody's mouth and trying to own up to everything. She said, anytime I was asked a question, I actually tried my best to answer honestly, but I basically stuck to what was asked of me. In other words, she didn't elaborate. He focused on the fact, well, did you tell him about the first incident? Did you tell him about this? Did you tell him about that? And she's like, I answered their questions. If it's in the report, then yes, I did. She's like, she's trying. Okay. Yeah. Didn't Danny Masterson already get charged with having indecent images, and why is he not in jail? Good question. I do believe there were some indecent pictures. That is coming up soon in this. One of the other incidences that Cohen wanted to focus on is why someone who was in a relationship for 6 years with someone and then left would actually still be in contact with them. And to Jane Doe's credit, she quite succinctly explained that they had been together for 6 years. They had this issue in regards to sexual relations that she wasn't happy with, his treatment and talking of women out in public, and how he treated others, but that she was constantly trying to help him with Scientology, since he actually brought her into Scientology within the first year of their relationship. And she actually took to it and believed in it. And she was farther along in it than actually Danny Masterson, because apparently he gets a free pass. He didn't even have to take these courses. He's not up for auditing. Because he's a celebrity, he's an upstart. Okay, he brings PR and money in and whatever, and there are apparently different rules from what I understand. And I'm going to go into that more deeply with another guest that's going to be on my channel next week, and I'm going to keep that under hats until the promo comes out. But we're going to get into Scientology and more about how that could possibly be. But basically, she was well into the studies and was believing it. That's why she states that is the reason that although her sexual relations with Danny Masterson, she knew something was wrong about it. Why they continued? Because she felt, as in the teachings, that is her duty in the relationship. She understood this, but she was actually trying to help also in getting him there to be talked to get some understanding as to why he was acting this way. Okay, and that went on for quite a long time. And Cohen, the defense, was trying to focus on the fact that after they separated, she actually met with him again and was trying to focus on, well, what made you finally decide to just not talk to him anymore? Like, because, you were on speaking terms with him and this, that, and the other thing. And, you actually slept with him afterwards. He brings it up, tosses in her face. And it comes to light during that testimony, not so good for Cohen or Danny Masterson, because during that, she's the whole time talking about the fear of Scientology, the belief in how she should try to do better and try to get him to do better and blah blah blah. She oh she did meet with him that one final time in a hotel room, and yes, they did have sex. And Danny, to his discredit, I might add, takes the phone out or something and starts taking pictures of her during the act while she's nude. That is when she decided that he's not ever going to change. And that was when she stopped all communication with him. Now, why would he do such a thing is what I'm thinking. And I'm going to be speculative here. I'm just going to say, sounds like somebody who knew they had a problem and was looking at another way to keep someone from coming forward. Because she was pushing about knowing this was wrong. And she was being not as, he would like. Just, remember when he met her, she just turned 18. And then he got her into Scientology. And she was compliant and she followed the rules. She gave up her modeling career because she believed once they lived on their own that she was to be home and run the home, as she was taught, as she was being instructed in through this organization, through Scientology. Those are their beliefs in the unit of a relationship between a man and a woman. And she was going along with it. She had made some changes, some acquisitions. Well, here it is. She's finding out that Danny doesn't even do it. Danny's not really believing it, only in the fact that he gets to do whatever he wants. That's what it looks like to me. And I realize that, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a paralegal. I don't have to stick to just the legal precedents here and just, what is the law and this and that. I'm talking to this and speaking to this in a manner of commentary and then also in a manner of what my personal beliefs are and how I'm seeing it. And I'm distressed. And I'm going to keep using that word because the way that they are treating, they, meaning the defense, are treating the victims to me is nothing more than belittling and actually kind of re-victimizing them in a way. I have to give them credit. It can't be easy to testify. I know they have to. They're coming in very late, many years later, and there's going to be lots of scrutiny, and there should be, because you don't want anybody blamed for anything like this without evidence, without testimony, without actual belief in something that actually happened here. And remember, we don't have physical evidence here because of the time frame. What we have are for physical evidence are photographs of the time of the bruises on Jane Doe 1. We have the statements of everyone that they talked to and what they did, and physical documentation of reports, and actual physical stuff from Scientology that they did go in and they did report it. Okay. We have all that. That's about it. We don't have DNA. We don't have any of that. We don't have a rape kit. We're not going to have any of that. But basically all three of them admit that they were there, and I don't really think that Danny is actually saying he didn't have sex with them. His point is that it was consensual. He was in a relationship with all of them, and they're just mad that he's not in a relationship with them anymore. Or it was as came out with Jane Doe 3, just bad sex. She's mad about bad sex because here it is. Judge Almeida is like admonishing defense attorney Cohen for how prolient his questions are, and he's going there and he's going there. And I got to tell you, it didn't really go in his way. It didn't, because it made Danny look really bad, because actually they had to go into, you know, how the sexual relations were. Okay. And what comes out is that, in pursuing Jane Doe 3's perspective on this couple's sex life, what happened after their relationship all, Cohen, he not only got another rebuke from the judge, it also just came out that, she really said that they did not have loving sex. There was no love in their sex. Danny took sex all the time while she was unprepared. Whenever Danny wanted sex, he just went for it, was her statement. Okay. Um, they are saying that, she's saying, Jane Doe 3 is saying that she was unprepared most of the time, that sex was rough, that it was just demanded, boom, done, and it wasn't a loving relationship, that sex was never anything about love with them. Mrs. Cassandra, yes, Jane Doe 3 is saying that is the basis of their sexual relationship. And Cohen kind of led them down that line, and now the jury has heard that. Okay. And I can't see that really looks well for him. The judge also had put through that, knowing that there seemed to be an aspect of perhaps some type of domestic violence in Masterson and Jane Doe 3's relationship, she put everything aside and said, listen, let's put all these comments out to pasture about this, and let's not go down here. She actually stopped Cohen from going any further into the their actual intimate sexual relationships, unless it pertained to the incidents that were being charged. And that rightly so, because in California, you're not supposed to talk about it. Danny Masterson continues to say to this day that he has never had non-consensual sex with anyone. Okay. That could be. But the charges with Jane Doe 3 that he's being accused for is sex while unconscious and violation, anal violation of her while unconscious. And she states that he admitted it. And that's how she reported it, that he said that that's what he did, and then he laughed about it. And that's being documented. Now, nobody else heard it besides her and he. But that's the accusation. That's what he's being charged for. Based on that, and Jane Doe 1's testimony of the same, with the pillow, with being choked, with fearing for her life, it's kind of adding up a little bit as to the kind of person he is. This is the picture that's being painted by the prosecution also. And unfortunately, with the help of the defense attorney on occasion. I know he's trying to do his best by being a bit of a pedant about how he's going at these witnesses. He's kind of making Danny Masterson look worse. And maybe that's because Danny does look worse. I don't know. But right now, I wouldn't be too happy with him if I was Danny Masterson. On that note, there was a problem in the courtroom during Jane Doe's testimony. The judge, in the middle of a sidebar, actually stopped because there was some ruckus in the back. She had noticed that there was a gentleman seated in the galley in the bed. There aren't that many people there. There's a few people there for Danny Masterson. There's a handful of reporters, not many spectators at all. But this gentleman was back there, and he was talking to the man next to him all throughout. And actually, like, while Jane Doe was testifying, when Cohen was actually questioning her, bringing things forward, he's making all kinds of faces and noises and things like that. And, Judge Almeida, she got really kind of annoyed with this guy. Okay. And she actually just said, "Who are you?" And this guy, he's actually an attorney by the name of Scott Borthwick. And apparently he's worked with the defense Philip Cohen in particular, on several other cases. But the judge wasn't having it, and she admonished him in front of everyone for his behavior in the courtroom and talking while things were going on. She directed it, and they left after the break, and they didn't come back for the afternoon. Well, curious, huh? Very curious. Because the only other disruptions were when the whole Masterson clan stared at Jane Doe 1 while the jury left. Stared, standing, while everyone else sat back down after, everybody stands when the jury leaves. Okay. And the jury left. Everybody sat back down. Masterson, his attorneys, and everyone in his row stared for quite a bit longer, stood there and stared at Jane Doe 1. This was when the panic attack that she had on the trial, on the stand, also happened. She was quite emotional, and the judge, she needed a break, and the judge removed the jury. The judge has been quite considerate of those testifying, Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 3 so far, as regards to the support person, as needing extra time, as trying to be clear. She's even stepped in and reclarified questions, and also stepped in and reclarified that answers have already been received, and perhaps the defense needed to listen a little carefully because he keeps asking the same thing over and over again. Okay. She says he uses asked and answered to tell a story, and she kind of understands that, but where he's going with it, he can't go. And she admonished him for it. And I have to say, the reason that mistrial was actually asked for this time is, oh gosh, there's multiple victims here. We have Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, and Jane Doe 3. Okay, Jane Doe 3, her name is out there. I don't use it, but her name is out there. Her name is out there because Danny leaked it after she filed the report. She's the one that was in the long-term relationship with him. He always speaks to her about as the ex-girlfriend who's coming at him. They actually put her name out there. So she is listed as Jane Doe 3, but she will give interviews. She does talk. She does let her name be used. She's not fighting it. It's already out there. So why not, she says. Why not fight back the same way with him? And I can understand that. But just to keep it all consistent, I'm just not. Okay. But Jane Doe 3 was accused of saying by Cohen. Cohen demands a sidebar and talks about a mistrial. Like the jury's not there. They haven't started the testimony yet, witness testimony yet. And he wants a mistrial because apparently during the last interview with the actually the testimony of Jane Doe 3, she had referred to an other victim, quote unquote, the word other victim. Now, we know there's 2 other victims in this case alone, but he wants a mistrial because that might allude to the jury that there are other victims out there. Well, there may be. I know of a couple that there was originally 4 reports. There's only 3 here coming forward. There are also 2 more reports that didn't go filed on others. And there was a case before this that was supposed to be filed that I don't know what happened with. I have to find the details. But I know he had a female lawyer to defend him, and he thought it was going to go to court. Okay. So he's all upset about this word other victims when clearly Jane Doe 3 meant the other victims in this case. And she didn't say this case afterwards, but he wants a whole mistrial. Number 4, request number 4. I kid you not. We're on day 11 of the trial, and he wants a mistrial. He wants a 4th request for a mistrial, which of course, both Mueller pushed back that could mean other victims right here. The most common thing you're going to think is another victim is right here. There's 2 other victims right here. That is the context of the full sentence all around. You're kind of picking out words, to try to throw stuff off, as he did with slap, as he's done with other things. Anyway, Mueller pushes back. Judge Almeida comes in and says, no. I kind of agree that is a general statement that could be in regards to the other victims in this case. And I don't think the jury's going to go that far with it. And even no mistrial. No, denied, 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 denied. Again, okay. This is just, it's getting almost comical, the amount of mistrial requests for anything. Okay. And I understand he's doing the best he can for his client. And I got to give him credit for it. I'm not going to take that away from him. But it's just, to me, it's a bit amusing, the things that they're going for, a little bit. But as I understand, he's going to really, really keep at it. But, Cohen, like little things in her testimony about, they, for Jane Doe 3, she had said that Danny would often go into the bathroom while she was in the shower, and he thought it was funny to just, pee on her. Yeah. He would pee on her while she was in the shower. And actually, Cohen had some issue about why that wasn't in the police report and why it came up later. She said it came up later when I was asked about particulars in our relationship. She said, but like during the questioning on why I was reporting this, I wasn't there to report that I was getting peed on, so you can definitely see like Cohen's just nitpicking every little thing. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. It's rather nasty. It's kind of disgusting to talk about. Hey, Jeff, nice to see you. Thank you for dropping the links, Mrs. Cassandra. The other. Yep, you found it. You found the other one, Found Play. Thank you very much for dropping both of those links. I appreciate it. Yeah. yeah, Mrs. Cassandra. Yeah, we know another really big offender. Yeah, that was kind of popular with. Hey, if it's a thing, whatever. But she wasn't making a big deal about it. It's just part of the testimony. And he's like going at her. Why aren't all these small details in the report? And she just keeps sticking to it that I answered every question that they asked me. If they asked me the question, it was there. I was terrified. Now, here's the thing. Cohen has said, I don't want this trial to be about Scientology. I don't want you to mention a word. He literally filed a motion that had to be addressed pre-trial with the judge that he didn't want the word Scientology mentioned anymore. Even though, like, the first attorneys brought Scientology in big by bringing in the Book of Ethics and saying that there can't be a trial because they're in violation of contract. It went to the Supreme Court. And no. Okay, so they brought Scientology in first. Okay, and now because it didn't go their way, and it's looking a little bad for Danny because he's a Scientologist, because Scientology is getting a bad press right now about the harassment and about delaying these women from reporting on Danny Masterson. They don't want it mentioned. Okay. Now, I agree that the mentioning of Scientology in association with Danny Masterson is not a good thing, but there's no denying that Danny Masterson is a Scientologist. You can't take that away. Like that's like what? That's like saying, like, because you have red hair and you're sitting in court, you're going to get prejudged. So I got to use a green screen and look like a blonde so you all don't prejudge me because I'm in court. No. Like, that's going too far. And they brought it in. And I really had a hoot about that. I did have a go with a couple of little clips on that one because to me that was like ridiculous. It's like too late, dude. I know you're coming in after the fact as another set of attorneys and you got to do your best. It was a good try. It really was. But that ain't happening because Scientology is the reason this case is coming forward so late. Scientology is their fear. Jane Doe testified that it was a terror campaign. She felt like that they have a terror campaign. She felt she had no course, like she couldn't come forward. She believed what they said when they said rape can't occur in a relationship. Like, he's your man. Whatever he does, it can't be rape. They said that. I mean, they convinced her and then made her go through auditing, saying that whatever happened was because of something in her. Okay. And she had to actually go for it. And then when she went forward and wanted to file an ethics complaint using the actual policies of Scientology, the process they laid out, She was told, no, you can't file an ethics thing on Danny Masterson. He's an upstart. He's above you. You're in a relationship with him. The only thing you can file is a things that shouldn't be. And don't you just love the title of that report? I mean, that just sticks out to me from last reporting. I'm still not over that. I don't think I ever will be over that. Things that shouldn't be, where she gets to put the whole thing in there and say what happened, call it what it is. Not use the R word, though. Can't say rape. We can't call this duck a duck. We have to call it I don't know. What do you call it? Unconsensual, maybe. Maybe they let her use that word. But anyway, it goes in his file so that if he ever gets audited, they can address it. Talk about burying it. Talk about belittling and just taking away what happened to her. Yeah, way to support your people, Scientology. You really need to do better. And that's what I want to say. I want to be clear. Scientology, although I'm not a fan, everybody knows it. I think there's issues there. Do they have the right to set out policies that they want and like organize the way they want with their beliefs? Yeah, everybody does. Everybody does. Okay. But when you're harming your own constituents, so to speak, your own membership, your own believers, when you are treating them this poorly and breaking the law doing it, I think everybody would agree with me that we can actually say, Scientology, you have an obligation to do better. You want to be all that big and don't want your name tarnished? Do better. This is awful. It looks awful. And it's bad press because it is awful. It is what happened. It is what happens routinely within your organization. You need to do better. Okay. You can't protect people that are acting in this manner because you don't want the bad press. You could have actually educated this young man under your policies. Yeah, you could. And he still could have been the man of the house. He could have just been a better man. How about that? Okay. He just could have been a better man. And if you're going to call them your sheep, you're responsible for what they're looking like. And they're looking pretty natty. Pretty damn natty. And I think it's time you address that from the inside. Because you're obviously keeping people from addressing it on the outside. That's clear. Okay. When you prevent people from filing actual legal reports against somebody for a crime, that's gone too far. I realize they don't recognize regular law and order, but that doesn't give them the right because they don't recognize it to break the law. And that's what I'm hoping gets addressed a little bit more in this case and in the civil suit that's coming forward. I do. Okay. Anyway, there was more than just Jane Doe 3's testimony. We also heard from Alexander Schlegel. Let me say this name. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry because he's so decorated too. Alexander Schlegel was the desk officer when Jane Doe 1 came in to do her report back in 2004. And there's been a lot going back and forth about what was in that report and what was asked of her. And like Jane Doe 3, she was grilled about what's there. And she would say, like, I don't recall or I don't remember. I think they asked this. I think they did this. But the problem that the defense attorney Cohen seems to have with the reporting or the incident reporting and the testimony of Jane Doe 1 is that the gun may not have been mentioned in the report and that certain other things like the incidences in order and this and that. He really tried to trip her up on the order of how things happened and why only one incident is being charged and not the two. It comes out when Alexander Schlegel, who is now like a supervisor of LA detectives, he's up there now. He was well-spoken. He was very clear. Cohen spent a long time on Jane Doe 1 about this report, about her misrepresenting, trying to trip her up, alluding to the jury that she misspoke, that she didn't claim the same thing, that she was changing her story. But I got to tell you, lo and behold, Alexander Schlager, uh, detective, takes the stand, reports on the report word for word. It matches the testimony of Jane Doe 1 almost exact. It's all there. It's all there. What the hell was Cohen trying to do, knowing that the report was going to come in? Okay, and District Attorney Mueller did a great job of firming up Jane Doe 1's testimony with the report that she filed with Alexander Schlager, and just everything that she said that was going on about how she was upset and everything. And then what else comes forward is how they talked about their terror. Both Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 3 got to present in court that they were afraid of Scientology and what they were going to do to them, that they were told not to report. They got to say it over and over again. And after this report came through, Jane Doe 3, of course, at the end of her testimony, got to say that she felt terrorized. Okay, that the reason that she kept in contact with Danny for so long was because of Scientology. Okay, everything that he tried to besmirch her with, everything that he tried to just make the jury think that she was just an angry ex, maybe, or she was slandering him in some way because of disgruntled feelings, that she had for him. She portrayed herself on the stand as someone who was wronged, but realized that they still cared for somebody and wanted them to do better. And I actually understood that. And I know many people don't, but I did, because it's about how you felt about the person. It's about you, not what the other person did. Okay. What the other person did is wrong. You didn't deserve it. It's not right. But that doesn't mean you don't want that person that you care about to learn from it and move forward and go on. You don't just start caring for somebody because they're an ass. Okay. If you actually care, right? I mean, I think you guys know what I'm talking about here. And Cohen was trying to blame her for that. And all it did was reinforce the hook that Scientology had in her and the belief that she could help him do better by actually bringing him into Scientology to get some courses and do some things and to talk to somebody, which he refused multiple times. Danny Masterson refused every single time to come in, except for when he said go and report it, because he had already been there to tell them a little bit about it. Okay. Except for then, then he was all for it. No. At the end. Okay. So Alexander Schlager's his testimony was great. Okay. As far as support of the actual report from Jane Doe 1, and to reaffirm her testimony and to try to take away some of the damage that could have been done to her testimony by the defense, by them going at it word for word, nitpicking little things, as he did with Jane Doe 3 also, which came up in Detective Reyes's investigation. The reporting on that, the actual documentation will show that what he's accusing Jane Doe 3 of saying was actually said by Detective Reyes. Okay, and that happened repeatedly. Cohen's used it repeatedly. He used it against Jane Doe 1 also, with the report from Alexander Schlager, and also with the investigation done by Detective Reyes. Okay, he's nitpicking on these words, and it actually comes out that someone else is saying it, but he's putting it in a way so the jury actually thinks it was the witness who did it. It's distasteful to me, but I think, again, like I said, he's doing the best he can for his client. And he, as much as I don't appreciate his tactics, in how the witnesses are being treated, I understand, what he's trying to do. There's two sides to everything. And if Danny feels he's wronged here and his attorney believes in him, he's going to aggressively go for the witnesses. Okay. But there are laws that protect them on certain things. You can't talk about their past sexual relationships. You can't talk about, this, that, or you can't really go for them the way we have traditionally seen these victims in their testimonies gone after. You can't rip them apart like that anymore. You're not allowed to. He tried to talk about alcohol. He tried to say that they were drinking too much. I mean, remember about the peeing, because she stopped to pee, okay, on the side of the road. The judge had to remind her that women pee for all kinds of reasons, not just because they're drunk. Full bladders, she could have drank a lot. She could have had a sudden urge. Like, it happens. The judge literally had to tell the defense attorney, well, that doesn't necessarily mean she was drunk. She says she hadn't drank. She's testified she hadn't drank. She may have drank water or coffee or had too much tea or whatever, and then have the urge that she really had to go. Like, okay. And I got to say, if it was a guy who did that, it wouldn't even have gotten to court. Like, come on. Really? Seriously. Oh. We're going to end. Well, it wasn't the end of the day today, but at lunch time today, there was an incident. It was kind of amusing that Tony Ortega reported on. He said at the break, Danny Masterson came out and he saw Mark Headley and Jeffrey Augustine sitting on a bench. And when he saw Mark Headley, okay, he started glaring at him. And he glared at him in such a way that he kept his eyes on him the whole time while he walked away, even turning his head to make it clear that he saw him. Now, they have a past. They were both Scientologists together. They worked on a project, some movie thing where actually Headley was the one who saved Danny from being called a suppressive person in some some movie skit thing they were doing for a promotional, for Scientology. And, Headley lays it all out. And if you don't know who Mark Headley is, he's married to Claire Headley, and he's also written a book. The name of his book is Blown for Good. Here, I'll give you the wiki on that. Here's the wiki on Mark Headley. Okay. And I think he was a little upset because he also saw him with Jeffrey. Okay. And Jeffrey, where do I have that? This is, let me just pull up a picture here for you. Okay. This is Mark Headley. Now, that is Tony Ortega. He does a lot of reporting every day on this. It's where we're getting a lot of our information. A lot of us are, okay. And he's doing a great job. And he always he's on all of the legal cases, not just this one. This isn't just a Masterson thing for him. This is a Scientology thing for him. He's on all the legal cases. I go to him for where are the legal cases are, what state are they filed in? Who is it? You got a case number. Tony Ortega is the man. He's got it all. And he's following all of them, the civil cases, criminal cases, all of it. And he's friends with Mark Headley. Mark Headley is married to Claire Headley, who currently they have a case against him. As I said, Mark did the book, Blown for Good. They actually, Scientology created a website called Who is Mark Headley to slam him. Well, I'm not going to give you the link for that, but if you search Mark Headley, it comes up and you can see some of the kinds of work that Scientology does to actually try to diminish the people that come out and speak against them. They've done it to Tony Ortega. They're doing it to Claire Headley now. If you remember, Claire Headley was going to be a witness in this trial. Well, they said that her experience with Scientology wasn't actually needed, but if they needed her to clarify some of the procedures, they would bring her in. But because she had the current lawsuit, it was only going to be if it was pertinent and if it was actually necessary to clarify some of the procedures of what the women were saying, because it's mostly about how the women felt they were treated by Scientology as to why everything was delayed. And Judge Almeida's been very strict about keeping it to that in regards to Scientology. Why was it a delay? How they felt, just that they were Scientologists and their personal feelings and relationship about it. Jeffrey Augustine is he owns and operates the website, the Scientology Money Project. And it could be that Danny was surprised to see them both sitting there because, that actual website goes and he does great work in tracking all the money. Okay. He examines Scientology's money, legal matters, personalities, and crime, and documents it there. So that's another one. Okay. And that's called the Scientology Money Project that Jeffrey Augustine actually runs. Our last witness of the day. So this is Mark Headley now. This is Mark Headley when he was in the filming with Danny Masterson. Okay. About that year, they're saying that's what he looked like then. Danny was younger then, so that's a younger picture of Danny. But our our next witness, before lunch and everything broke out, is Jane Doe three's husband. Okay, Cedric Bixler Zavala. He is a musician. He is the lead singer and lyricist for a what they call a progressive rock band, the Volta. And here is his wiki if you want to check it out. Okay, just so you know who's testifying. Anyway, he's married to Jane Doe 3. Okay, and both basically the testimony before the break was mostly in regards to how Jane Doe 3 had told him about the incident and how she felt. And so far to date, he has conferred that, she acted like someone who didn't want to come forward with all the information. She acted nervous. She acted tense. She held her hands in a certain way. He could tell she wasn't giving him all the details. He was a little put off because it still felt that because of her quote unquote Scientology training, because she is now out of it, he was a little unnerved to find out that she was still in protective mode of the situation of Danny and was afraid to give too gory of the details. And that it is to his credit that when she told him about the incident, and it was approximately 2010, 2011, they both say that they don't have the exact month and day of that they actually had the conversation. They both remember how the conversation came about, where they were, on what was said, but they don't remember the exact date. Okay. It was the first time that she talked to him about it. They're already married. And she's never used the word rape until Cedric heard the story and he said, he did that to you while you were unconscious. You've been raped. And that started a snowball with her to where she started, she called a hotline and she told them about the situation and things like that and got more information. And it kind of brought everything to a head for her and led down to where we are now, the path that we are now, to get to the charges. I mean, it's what started. Previously, before Cedric took the stand, it was brought up from Jane Doe 3's testimony that she had spoken to Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 in the past, but not right away, much later. Okay. And that they really didn't talk about the situations, in great detail. And it's coming to light in Cedric's testimony also that they didn't really talk in great detail about everything, especially once he confirmed with her and walked her through the process and everything that this was actually an assault on her, that this is wrong. She's now in a committed relationship, a marriage, and she feels more secure and she's able to look at it and it's wrong. And that happens. I mean, what she's saying is that under the teachings of Scientology, she didn't feel comfortable. She felt restricted to actually even look at the situation. She's already been told, no, it's not rape. And she believed Miss Scogans when she said that to her, because she had been studying with Miranda for quite a while now, and she believed her to understand the teachings of Scientology greater than her, and she just believed her, and that it was not, that it couldn't be because they were in a relationship. But here's her husband coming and saying, no, that's not it. Like, yeah, you're unconscious. There's no consent when you're unconscious, and the snowball. Yeah, the ball starts rolling and we get here into a legal case. This man was calm when he testified. They tried picking at him, have you guys organized this? Have you, talked about this repeatedly since you were coming to trial? And as a married couple, they actually have diligently tried not to. They don't talk about how they're going to testify or things like that. They support each other, of course, but they're not like doing day-to-day checkup like I said this, you said that, or anything like that. They both testified to that. um, he also testified to the fact that she was in fear of Scientology and that there had been harassment. It was asked straight out, and he said yes and started to talk about it and asked straight out, are you in a civil lawsuit against Scientology? Yes, I am. Why? For the harassment. Now, he's asked he's asked about it as if, as if they're actually pursuing just for money, you know. And Jane Doe 3 had answered it pretty clearly, and I'm trying to find it because I saw a quote on her. Um she said that no, we're not filing against Scientology for the money. And you know, she's often very soft spoken and everything, and it came out when Mueller asked her, the separate civil against Scientology was she and the other alleged Manson victims, was it about money? And she said clearly no. And I quote, it was related to the terror campaign that this criminal organization has put upon me or my family. She was a former Scientologist, and in a very stern or forceful voice, she says forward, no matter how many police reports or how many FBI reports we filed, no one would stop them. And they are still doing it to this day. So she says she's gone to the police about it, about Scientology's harassment. So has Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2. And it's still going on to this very day. They are trying to intimidate them. She added all of that and got that statement in, quoted on record, was not taken off. Okay. But the judge did put an end to the topic, and that was it. They weren't going to go any further because, as I said, Judge Almeida's keeping it straight here. She wants only so much. But because this is relationship to the terror that she felt, to the harassment that they're feeling, to the reason they didn't come forward soon enough, or what the defense is saying is soon enough, that there are other reasons that they didn't, like because they just got mad at him later or something, um they have been, they're claiming they've been harassed, stalked, intimidated ever since going public with the accusations. In the civil suit right now is paused, waiting the outcome. That waiting the outcome of the trial. And that was Jane Doe 3's statement about it. And Jane Doe 1 had made a previous statement about it when asked about the civil suit and the purpose of it. And she actually said that peace was the point of the case. She just wanted peace. She wants it settled. She wants to know that what she experienced happened, it was wrong. And she wants to know that the way she was treated by Scientology was egregious. She wants peace. And that stood out to me. It reminded me when I was reading about Cedric's testimony, and how he was saying that it's not about the money. It's about righting wrong. It's about correcting misinformation. Something that many of you in the chat agree with me wholeheartedly is a problem everywhere. And yes, Grace, you're right. They call that fair game when they go after them. When they go after them like that, they call that fair game. Okay. All right. Let me bring this back up. Okay, let me go through with some questions. There'll be more on today's testimony when we come back next week with another Just Masterson update that will handle everything. Thank you very much, Godless Comer. Tony Ortega's book about what Scientology did to a journalist called Paulette Cooper is a must read. I agree. There are quite a few of them out there. Many of you have talked to me about seeing Mike Rinders and Leah Remini's documentary, the series that they did on Scientology. And Mike Rinder just has a book out right now, and he admits to all the wrong he did personally. He did during Scientology under their policies, firsthand accounts, and he's admitting to it. You can't get more real than that. Okay, when the person that was actually involved is claiming, "Hey, wrong was done," you know. Um, yeah, Scientology is a great example of taking responsibility way too far. Yeah. hmm this is true. Jane Doe threes. I understand that, Grace. She's public with her name. I just don't mention it. Yeah. She's public with her name out there. Danny Masterson exposed who was coming at her. Way back in, I think it was like 20 after 2017, when the real LAPD investigation started coming forth. He threw her name out there as the ex girlfriend who's trying to do him in, and put her name all out there. So yeah, I'm only not mentioning it so I don't in ones just for me, because then I can't confuse Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, and Jane Doe 3 and do any of that. I'm just going to keep referring to them in the way that they filed. Yeah. Many of the articles do list her name, and it is obvious that if her husband is out there testifying in his full name, and even in the reporting, everybody's using it because he's not hiding that he's testifying. He wants his name out there. He's supporting his wife, and he really thinks that a wrong was done here. And I agree with him. I do. I just don't know. Until the trial is forced, I cannot say anything actually happened. I'm just hoping that the way that I see the evidence, that the testimony that's being portrayed right now, I tend to believe that these scenarios happened, and I totally believe that Scientology interfered. That's my opinion. It's not a legal one. But it's whether or not this can be presented in a way to actually get justice for them is what we're following here. We're following the testimony to see how they're playing it out, defense versus prosecutor, to see what will be the outcome. Okay. Alice in Wrongful Conviction Land says, yeah, they try and turn the tables on them, and they are disgruntled ex-Scientologists. Yep. They just say that because you're not with us anymore, this is why, Yes. Yes, Sarb. Jeffrey Augustine is married to Karen, who has an extensive YouTube channel called Surviving Scientology. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to get that link for our next stream, and I'll have it available. Thank you for that, Sarb. I could not remember his wife's first name. Okay. Sandy says, I was never tempted to read Hubbard, even though his books were in the house. I'm glad I avoided it. EST was bad enough. I agree. I agree. After all, he was a science fiction writer at first, right? I just thought it was a book about I thought it was a joke, actually, Sandy. Yep. Godless Scummer says, Tony Ortega's blog is well worth a read if you want to understand Scientology a bit better. Yes, the Underground Bunker, you're going to find a link to his website down below. I can't agree with that even more. There are several channels out there. There's another one, Chris Shelton. I put him down there. If you click on his name in the description, it'll bring you to his channel also. There are plenty of people speaking on this right now. Aaron Smith, he has got a channel. He's on it every day, but yeah, I don't know. Yep. Yep, growing up in Scientology. Yes, Christina, that's Aaron, I believe. He offered the inside details. He offers another aspect to help understand the organization's propaganda. That's so true. It does help when there are people that were there. Mm-hmm. Yep. Did he? Jujubee? I thought he would. Mark Headley was on Growing Up in Scientology today on YouTube and discussed his experience at the trial. Good. Yeah, because they're saying that, man, that's the first time, all along. In our last discussion, did we not show the pictures that the court artist is putting out was striking how Masterson looks so calm, cool, collected, and kind of like, no affect to him, just, not responding too much. And yet they say that the only time he has that's been reported, and once it was by Tony Ortega, Mark Headley, and Jeffrey Augustine about this glaring, he did it, Mark Headley, okay. But another time, Deadline reported that when Jane Doe 3 testified about how uncomfortable she was about a conversation she had with Danny Masterson in regards to another Scientologist, Jennifer Epstein. Okay, she was I want to say Law and Order. Was she Law and Order? No, she was. No, the other one with Tom Selleck. She was Danny She was Danny's partner. Who was that? But not that Danny. Danny Wahlberg. She was Danny Wahlberg's partner. I'm trying to remember the name of the show, but it had Tom Selleck. It was a police show. She was a detective. But Jennifer Epstein, he had a tirade about her, speaking terribly about her. And when Jane Doe 3 was retelling that conversation in her testimony, he started smirking in like he really found it amusing. He really did. Mm-hmm. Wrecker says that takes a big man to do that. I'm assuming that you mean back when, because I'm behind in the chat, that you mean back that Cedric actually is there supporting his wife and coming forward. I'm thinking that's what you mean, and I agree. His support helped her to not only understand the situation. He didn't force her or tell her what she had to do, but allowed her to understand and deal with it, and let her take her time telling him about it. And now can testify to how she actually did that and can unfold that process, which makes it a little more real for me and others listening, and I hope the jury too, that it's not like, oh, Danny made me mad, I'm going to go file a report on him, as the defense would like us to believe. There was a whole process here, and they're being very open about it, and that takes huge amounts of courage, and I can't speak enough on the strength that they must have and what they must believe, and just their, I'm going to say it, like their moral fortitude in coming forward with what might be actually right for others. When it comes down to it, I get the feeling listening to this testimony and how calm Jane Doe 3 is. She's not just doing this for herself. She's not. She couldn't be that calm if it was just for her. She's holding it together for a lot of people. And I'm going to give her really, really good credit for it. Excellent. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Cassandra. Yes, we're going to get to that right now. Okay, I think I caught up on questions. If I missed anybody's questions because I didn't pay attention to the chat as well as I intended and stated I would. But Sarb made a comment here, and I'm going to put it up because when I think of that report, things that shouldn't be, yes, I think the whole organization needs to be in that file. Like, I think we need to write that report. Yes, Sarb? Like things that shouldn't be. Like, this is wrong and it needs to be addressed, but they just want to push it under the carpet. But yeah, wouldn't it be? Although if it was in that folder, it's not like they would do anything about it from what I hear, So I don't know. I don't know. And like I said, these are accusations. We're listening to the testimony of the victims, the accusers. Okay. We're going to hear the other side. I mean, the defense keeps trying to tell us the other side, but they're not actually challenging. They're only challenging the words of the testimony of the accusers. Okay. And that to me is like, what else are they going to bring forward? It seems like attack only so far. But when they bring their expert witnesses, as I showed you in the beginning, it's a little skewed as far as the witness list is very long on the prosecution side, with individuals that are ex-Scientologists, current Scientologists, and people from the police department involved in the investigation, taking the reports, people that the victims, the accusers, actually spoke with in regards to the claims. There is experts listed, okay, but on the other side, there's only there's only Bree Schaefer, who is Danny Masterson's assistant. She's also on the prosecution list. Okay. Um, and then, oh gosh, what they haven't actually put anything forward except for that these three. There's going to be an expert witness on memory. There's going to be another one on I think it was toxicology. Okay. Which I think they're going to be attacking on whether or not one drink could make someone like that. I don't know. Well, most of their experts are in that department. There's three of them listed. And like I said, Bree Schaefer. I'm sorry. My dog just distracted me by jumping right in front of me. If you want to know what that long pause was, I was trying to move him away. Okay. Sorry about that. Jujubee, I think it was estimated to be about 4 weeks. We are at the end of the first full week, and there was a day missing. Actually, we're going into the end of 2, like towards the end of the second week. Not exactly 14 days yet, or 10 days. We're just past, so we're going into the third. Sorry, we're going into the third. Okay. They do go Monday through Friday. They did start on a different day of the week. It wasn't a Monday. I believe they started on a Tuesday with jury selection. And then we were by, I think, Wednesday, we were actually up with witnesses. So she went really quick through jury selection and questions, he was quiet, wasn't he, Mrs. Cassandra? But he was right here, right next to me, like right in my face. It was kind of weird. Okay. No, Godless, I'm not going to say who it is, but I have said, Jeff will be joining me. We're going to have a conversation with someone's going to be able to actually put some light onto the Scientology end of this a little bit, and to talk about the culture and how these things can happen within that organization. And I should have that information out either later tonight or tomorrow morning. So look for it. But no, I'm going to keep it under my hat for right now. Godless, but I'm glad that you're going to be joining us. It's going to be a great conversation, and I hope you all will too. Yeah. All right, so that's it for today. Unless you have anything else, Jujubee says this has to be exhausting for the women. I agree. The strength that it takes is unbelievable. I agree. And you are fashionably late, Uncle Neff, but very welcome. Replay's going to be your friend, because we're absolutely just clearing up now. I'm just about ready to call it. It's almost at the half hour. I'm not going to be doing much streaming this weekend on my channel, but as Mrs. Cassandra has put the links there, we are going to be on the shills tomorrow, starting at 3:15 Eastern Standard Time. For the Operator Starsky stream, the update on what's going on in Ukraine. I really love being part of that. Very interested in hearing what's going on. It's really fascinating to hear it from someone who's there, who understands it, who's involved in it so heavily, and doing good service. He also has his own channel, but that'll be over on the shills at 3:00. And then later we have the Halloween special later that night at 7. And then Sunday, we're going to be going back to the Iran protests again with Amy Hogan in the Uncalled For show. And I believe that's at 6 p.m. Mm-hmm. I know. They want me to talk. Okay, so Jujubee did do her Oreo stream, and I did miss it. I did. I did miss it, and I'm gonna have to go back and look, because like I was making fun of her because her other stream that was supposed to be the Oreo stream was like, I kid you not, like 5 hours or whatever long, and the whole time that I was there, and I wasn't there the whole 5 hours, we never really got to talk about Oreos. It was everything else, and I was disappointed. So I was razzing her, and now there's a whole nother stream that I have to go. Okay. All right. I'm going to actually look at it, and I'm going to give you an unbiased and real response. Okay. And then I'll get back to you guys. But I do love Jujubee's content because she's honest, she direct, she tells you how she feels about everything, and she doesn't pretend for it to be anything else but her opinion on something. And I like that. Hi, Commander 401. Nice to see you. On that, everybody, I think I'm going to call it. Okay. So don't forget to do the YouTube things. Okay. So I don't get obnoxious here. Like, please go forward and like and share and comment and all that other stuff. And if you like the content, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you get notifications on what's going on. Okay. All right. On that, I think we're going to call it a night. Everybody have a great day. Yes, yes, Jeff, you should be quiet until tomorrow. When it comes out, I'll send it to you, and then you can say it to everybody you want. And thank you all for being here.